And I think from a founder perspective, I mean, if you're a founder building in the late 90s an internet company, right? Like, I think you want to be building a company like Amazon, which has real long-term, viability, and not like, something that maybe is a bit more extreme, right? Like there were companies that were just way too early. I mean, Webvan and Pets.com are the famous ones, right? Like people
I
talk
think the
about
big
those.
question is if you're a founder and you're in this bubble and you know it's overheated, even if you think you're building something real, like, should you take the acquisition if one shows up? Like, is this a good time to be selling your company? And I think the answer is probably yes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey everyone, welcome to Founders in Arms with me, Immad and Raj, co-founder and CEO of Mercury.
And I'm Raj, co-founder of Lima and Tribe. And today we have a one-on-one with Immad and I, just catching up. Actually, Immad, you and I haven't caught up in a while, and we're going to talk about what's happening in the world of tech and what's relevant to founders, how they should think about things. Immad and I are both building companies, but we're also investors in a lot of different startups, and we have a good sense of what's going on in the markets and what founders are dealing with in today's world. And we'll also just catch up on our companies. I'll ask him some questions about how Mercury's doing, and he'll ask me some questions as well. And we'll share some of our insights into our industries as well. So Immad, looking forward to doing this. I think we'll do this probably more regularly in the future too.
Yeah, once a month maybe. All right, maybe first topic. I was actually in DC this week, so this is a relevant topic. We had our czar of crypto and AI call out Anthropic, saying that they are kind of pushing the idea that AI needs more regulations. I think this is on the back of new regulation going live in California. Was it like SB 451 or something like that? I haven't read the regulation, but it's some AI regulation. I think there's a much more extreme one is it Colorado that has another one going live? And the Colorado one is like AI. The AI tool itself should not do anything discriminatory in its usage, which can be interpreted pretty broadly. So one thing that's kind of interesting, which ties to DC, is in America, like every state can make a law about these kinds of things, unless there's a federal preemption. And in the big beautiful bill, Ted Cruz was trying to push through a federal preemption. So he was trying to say like, hey, no state can do any AI regulation, even though there's no federal AI regulation. But that fell through. So when I was in DC, there's still some talk because most of these new states that are trying to regulate AI are Democratic. So this Republican politicians are still talking about like doing some sort of preemption. I don't know if that's going to happen because I assume it needs like 60 votes in the Senate. So you would need to get the Democrats on board with it as well. But it does seem like the kind of thing where you'd want federal preemption rather than 50 different laws that you have to kind of abide by. Like imagine if you're a model provider, or even, I mean, these, some of these laws are broad enough that like anyone that uses AI in their product might need to like go abide by Colorado's AI laws, which would be kind of a pain. I mean, how do you think about it, Raj, as someone who's like making AI products?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a nightmare. And, there's already this type of patchwork of laws for things like sports betting, actually, where like different states have different laws. And
there's a ton of it in fintech, actually. Lending licenses, you need per state ones. Actually, Mercury's pursuing per state lending licenses. And like we still haven't got a California one because that takes forever. And money transmitter licenses are also state by state. And it really slows things down. Like it can literally be like the startups that fundraise as fintechs and they're like, yes, we're going to wait a year and a half to get our money transmitter licenses and spend like $2 million on like the initial licensing because it's like every single state you have to like pay some money for and pay some lawyers too.
Yeah, it's a huge pain for companies. There's no doubt about it. And like anything you have to deal with on a state-by-state level is a massive pain. Like even things like business registration in different states, paying employees and payroll tax in different states. I actually recently went through this and I saw how Gusto and some of these other payroll providers manage it. It's not easy. Anything state by state is not easy. Lyft went through this on a municipality basis.
Yeah, they went city by city.
Yeah,
that's even more true.
It's much worse, and you have to develop you have to put a lot of investment to dealing with this. So I can see why the federal folks are annoyed at any kind of local state stuff that's going to affect the development of AI here in the U.S. And there is a certain thing about what Anthropic is doing. They're accused of regulatory capture. They're trying to create regulations that they will have the resources to be able to follow, but others won't. Smaller startups will not.
I mean, there's this one side of it that like, Anthropic. I don't actually even know how much Anthropic is doing to lobby for these state by state things. So, one side is like maybe they're going after regulatory capture. I do think there's like another genuine side that I've talked to plenty of people at Anthropic, and they really do care about AI safety, and they think there is like like they are very worried about P doom, like this idea that we hit AGI and like it ends up kind of over dominating humans in some way or something like that. So there is like I think some genuine concern, and presumably the federal folks they're talking to are not listening, and that's why they're pushing for state law. So I don't think it's purely like a maybe it plays into it, but I don't think it's purely them being greedy and wanting to like kind of stop competitors.
Yeah, I mean that's like the founding thesis behind Anthropic, right? Is like OpenAI is
and
not doing
OpenAI
enough.
to some extent.
Yeah, but they were like even more extreme than OpenAI. Like the people who started Anthropic were like, no, OpenAI is not doing enough, right, to protect AI, AI safety. So we're going to be the real AI safety people. So I think if you're there, you have to be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, right? That that there's something to be concerned.
The other thing that was interesting in DC is like, I mean, again, I guess partly because the Republicans in power, I mostly spoke to them, but I even spoke to some Democrats, but they're really not that bothered about AI. Like they're not bothered about job losses. They're not bothered about doom. They're actually like, I think it's because they're just so far from Silicon Valley. Like everyone in Silicon Valley, like even people who are like a little skeptical are still like, oh my God, AI is going to change everything. And like, at the minimum, you think there's going to be job loss because it's so good. And at the maximum, you think like, yeah, maybe we need UBI because like humans won't have any purpose or something. But like DC is just like, yeah, I played with ChatGPT. It's not that good. It's like that's like kind of the vibe you get. It's like yeah, it's like interesting in this industry, but we're not like that bothered about it. So it is interesting to see like this kind of difference in view based on like where you live.
But what about self-driving cars? I mean that is undeniable that that's going to replace take away jobs. Was there any talk about that?
When I did ask about like, oh, what about job losses? They're just like, yeah, these people will find other jobs. And I guess there's the general view that I think, yeah, it's an interesting question about self-driving cars. I think there's just a general view that things will take a long time, and people will find other jobs, and we are in like a very low unemployment world right now, and at least I guess like self-driving cars related jobs are like relatively low skill jobs. So those people, it's not like you need to massively retrain away from that to something else. I think it's probably more of an issue if you have a bunch of high paid engineers losing jobs than if it's Uber drivers that can like go into like many other jobs at a similar salary level.
Yeah, I would, as a politician, I'd be a lot more concerned about like people driving cars losing their jobs and driving trucks. I mean, those are a big voting block, right? Often organized, often political, and just a lot more people affected by that than engineers who are mostly immigrants, or a lot of them are immigrants, can't vote. So, yeah, I think maybe they have their head in the sand, which wouldn't surprise me about DC. So,
but you can imagine this would happen over like a pretty long time, right? Like the amount of capital required to like go. I mean, even if you look at like Waymo in San Francisco, I think it's only like 10 or 15% of rides or something. Like, and they've been doing
30%.
Is it 30%?
Yeah, I think it's.
But San Francisco is a small city as well.
Yeah,
I could just imagine it'll take like 10 plus years to like really roll this out to have like an effect on jobs.
I think it would be about 3 years, 2 to 3 years. I think Waymo is rolling out pretty fast. I don't, they're scaling up quickly. They're launching in London next year. So they're just put out a tweet about that. I saw. I wouldn't. I mean, and then Tesla is doing the robotaxis. So
yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have like 60-70% share of the rideshare market within 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. But the general vibe wasn't that. I mean, maybe there's people bothered about it. And maybe it is actually like weirdly partisanal. Like maybe the Democrats are like much more bothered about job losses, and the Republicans are like, let's fuel the economy. And it's a weird thing that would be partisanal, but like I do feel like it's the kind of thing where like you pick a side based on your party. Um, I think this also ties into this kind of potential AI bubble. There was a bunch of news around how I think like half the GDP growth in the US this year is because of AI and AI data centers, and rather than the rest of the economy. So, like, what's your general take on like, are we in a bubble or not? And if we are or not, like, well, what founders should think about it or do about it.
Yeah. Before I answer that, one last point on the politics and the partisan side. One thing I'm starting to notice is that Democrats on the left are getting really vocal about the dangers of AI. Like they're almost following the Anthropic model, and like I've seen people like Ezra Klein on the left who is like kind of a thought leader for the left now at this point. He's really talking about like the dangers of AI and all the bad things it can do. He's focusing on it, and I can see the left for sure like focusing on like the dangers of AI, and I think on the right, I think there should be a bipartisan consensus that the federal government should control AI or like should be the one regulating AI, not the states, because I think the Democrats would go for that. So it is a bit concerning to me, to see like one party kind of embrace this like AI regulation is the right thing. It's like almost the same policy as the Chinese, Communist Party. It's like basically, CCPs also have the same model, and the EU. And so like this is a risk I think for the country is like if like one party is fully embracing that, whereas maybe the Republicans are more laissez-faire, but you certainly have one party now. They want to regulate a lot of things, and that's not be they won't the on the left they want to regulate more things, but they've decided on the environmental stuff they can pull back a little bit so we can grow faster. But on AI, they're like, no, let's be very cautious. They think social media was a big failure. So their view on social media is like, it was such a disaster, we should have regulated it from the beginning. And that's kind of their view on AI as well. So that's just one point that I'm seeing, kind of worrying trend.
Yeah, that is a worrying trend. Is there even like good ways to regulate it? Like, I mean, at least the things I've seen are like, they're not going to really do much. Like, I haven't seen anything like, this like anti-discrimination thing. Like, it's just very hard to like do it. I mean, there's already laws about not discriminating. So like, I don't know if we need to like tell every model to like try to not discriminate. It just seems weird.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. I mean, can you imagine like going through like certification for models and things like that? And like, you have government people have to look at it. It's going to, it's any kind of regulation is going to be a bad idea. I think this should just industry self-regulation should be the right way to go.
Yeah, at least for now.
Yeah, and a lot of it's going to be just hashed out in the like civil courts too, right? Like I think that's going to be also part of it. People are going to sue each other for things.
Yeah, and there's a possibility that at some point there'll be much clearer reasons to regulate. Like there'll be actual problems that we are like, oh, we really need to have a law that stops AIs explaining to people how to make like nuclear bombs or something. And I mean, I guess that's self-regulated, but it does seem like you could make very specific regulations about stopping specific bad behavior.
Yeah, I mean, we already have Google search, right? People can look up these things anyways. I'm not sure if there's any law that bans people from looking up like how to make a nuclear bomb. Like it just, Google just suppresses that, right? So anyway, so that's that point. And then, on the AI bubble piece, I think we're in a short-term bubble, but I think long-term it's not a bubble. Like AI is real. It's going to like change a lot of how people live, and all this investment is justified. But it's the same as late 90s where we saw a huge buildup for the internet, like of all people laying cables, for internet and things like that. And a lot of people lost money in that. Tons of people lost money. But the net result of it actually was that all that stuff became cheap.
It does come down to timings, right? Like it's like if you look at the internet bubble, it burst in 2001, and we didn't really get back until 8 years later or 9 years later when we were actually using all of the stuff, and the internet was really, it was like mobile phones and real proliferation. So it is a question of like how far in front are we of the technology and the deployment. It is pretty obvious it's like going to change everything. But if it's like that, we're like 10 years in front of like actual deployment, then we could go down pretty far before we come back up. But it is possible that we're just deploying quicker. I mean, the crazy thing is like to really use as much AI as we need to use, we need way more power. And the power production just takes way longer to ramp up, right? Like people talk about nuclear, but that's like 10 years away. it just takes so much longer to build like physical infrastructure stuff that yeah, potentially by the time we have enough power to really change the GDP of America with AI, it will be like another 10 years.
Yeah, and I think from a founder perspective, I mean, if you're a founder building in the late '90s an internet company, right? Like, I think you want to be building a company like Amazon, which has real long term viability, and not like something that maybe is a bit more extreme, right? Like there were companies that were just way too early. I mean, Webvan and Pets.com are the famous ones, right? Like people
I
talk
think the
about
big
those.
question is if you're a founder and you're in this bubble and you know it's overheated, even if you think you're building something real, like should you take the acquisition if one shows up? Like, is this a good time to be selling your company? And I think the answer is probably yes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, from a monetary perspective, it's certainly yes. Like there's no, I think we're at a local maximum or, for valuation. So people should definitely take good deals when they come their way. Especially a first-time founder, I would say, right? A first-time founder, if you're looking for your first exit, that's a big deal, life-changing thing for you. Consider offers great, very
I
carefully.
also think it depends on the stage of the company. I think if it's like, you're like pre-revenue, someone's like coming at you with like 50 million or above and you're first time founder, like take it. I think if you've reached some success and I don't know, you're a unicorn, but an overvalued unicorn, let's say it's like 100x, or I guess there's probably even like 200x kind of revenue stuff going on. I think at that point you've got the two choices, right? Like you either take an acquisition or take like a hefty secondary. Because if the valuation is your unicorn, like taking 10 million off the table or 20 million off the table could be life changing for you, but you still probably own like more than 90% of your shares.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, that's good advice. I think. How would you think about it, Imad? You've seen a few cycles now where people raise at high valuations and then there's a down round, or there's like it's hard to raise money later. Like, should they take the high valuation with the chance of a down round, or I think your advice typically is raise a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious, right? Like this is my advice normally. I think anyone that says don't take a high valuation is I don't think they really understand people's psychologies. Like it just doesn't happen. Uh, I think the risk is there's two risks. Number one, you take a very high valuation, but you don't raise enough. So we raise at $1 billion, but you only raise 50 million or something like that. The issue with that is you took the high valuation, but you didn't really fill up the coffers. So to like kind of ride it out, right? The second risk is you take the high valuation and then you spend the money like crazy, which are like similar but related risks. So I would say if you think the valuation is way higher than you deserve, and you're a money burning company, I mean, it's different if you're profitable, but let's say valuation's very high and you're burning money, go dilute yourself at least 15%. It's like my rough take. And then just be very disciplined about how you spend money, right? Like there's lots of rules around like when and how much to spend money, right? There's like, you can do rule of 40, you can do burn multiple, but whatever rules you use to do it, and go look those two up. But I think there's a general logic to how much money you spend, which is actually independent of how much money you raise. Like it shouldn't be like I raise this much and I'm going to divide, I'm going to take that 100 million I raised, divide it by 2 years and try to spend 50 million a year. Like that's just not how you should think about it. You should be like, okay, I raised this much, but my money, based on the stage I'm at and how productive I am, like I think I should spend this much money. This stuff does break if you're like growing like crazy fast, like burn multiple, and actually the rule of 40 that doesn't make that much sense if you're growing at like 10x per year. But even then, I would say like Mercury has like probably added 40% employees per year, and that's like kind of the limit of like what you can add and still be productive and still keep a culture and not just spend like 100% of your time hiring. So like there's a limit to how fast you can grow without like breaking things. Maybe you can grow faster than 40%, but you probably can't like keep tripling your employees every year and still try to keep a higher hiring bar and all these other factors.
What thought framework should a money burning company use when they raise a big round and then they think about, okay, how to spend the money? Should they be like, I just spend the bare minimum to maintain the same growth, or like, because the incentives become like, let's spend money and try to grow 5% faster. Should there be like an efficiency framework in
I
their
mean,
mind? Like, no, yeah.
I think it depends. There's like
Hmm.
so many nuances to the type of company. Like
You gotta
I'd
lay it out for
firstly
us.
I'd firstly push back on like, is your growth really tied to spending more money? And at least I would say that's actually relatively rare that you're like, I'll spend an extra dollar and then that will give me $2 out. There are like some situations where that's true. Like it's like a very sales driven company. You just have to like ramp up sales. But I think there's a lot of companies that's not strictly true, where you're doing R&D. There's like word of mouth, organic growth, and those two kind of tie together. But it's not like purely like spend more money and grow faster. Uh, so I would kind of split that up. Like, is it spend more money, grow faster or not? And if it isn't like spend more money and grow faster, and it's like, yeah, you have to do like real R&D and other things, then often actually like having a 2x bigger engineering team does not mean 2x more productivity. Actually, like your productivity is non-linear. So you kind of want to try to actually grow the team slow and be kind of careful. In the situation where it's like literally dollar in, dollar out kind of situation, then you have to be careful of like, okay, how good is the dollar out, right? Like if you're like scaling up sales, it's very easy to have inefficient sales. You could, your retention might not be that good. Your margins might not be that good. I would do the math and like really think about like how efficient is your sales. But I'm still like somewhat sold on burn multiple, right? Like if you spend $1 million and you get $1 million of ARR, which is like roughly how the burn multiple thing works, like it's the right thing to do. But like, is the ARR real ARR? And we could talk about that, right? Like, when people say spend $1 million to get $1 million of ARR, they're talking about like B2B SaaS, where like the margins are 80%. You've got some NRR, so like there's like some like growth over time of your cohorts. And I would argue with most AI companies, you probably don't, your margins aren't that good and you don't really know what your NRR is. So you have to kind of be careful, like, and, maybe just take the other side of it. Maybe, be conservative about it. So maybe $1 million has to generate 2 million of ARR for it to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw like a tweet the other day that suggested that Cursor's margins are closer to Walmart than to Google's. They're basically.
Aren't they at negative margin? I mean, I think it's even.
So yeah,
worse
there's
than
rumors. I guess I don't know what it is. Yeah, maybe Walmart.
Yeah, I think it's even trickier if your margins are negative. Then you really have to believe, like, okay, what is your path to? And like often, back in the previous era, people often had like very high growth and high margins, and like the social era, right? Like you'd be like low margins, as in they wouldn't make revenue, but they'd grow really fast, and like that's kind of like the era we're in with AI. I think you really have to believe there's a path to like your margins changing, like, and often there is they have like some math, right? That's why VCs keep giving them more money. What do you think about kind of ARR? Like what like do these companies have real ARR? Like how would you how would you speak to founders about like thinking?
Yeah,
about
I'm definitely
ARR?
seeing some stretching of definitions of ARR. It's quite concerning to me. This is 2021 behavior again. Where people are kind of like,
what does that mean?
playing
Stretching the definition of ARR? Like,
Well,
give me an example.
they'll be like, oh, I made like X dollars last week, and so I'll just multiply that by 52,
Multiply
and that's
by
my
52.
ARR, right? And that's happening a lot. I mean, I think it's happening across the board now, and the reason is VCs are incentivizing it. By, probably that's the first question they ask in every meeting. It's like, oh, what's your ARR? And everyone wants to show that they're growing at whatever percentage. And it's the same thing what we saw in 2021. I mean, it's just like people coming up with everything. I mean, and then the problem is that they stop focusing on the fundamentals of their own business, and like fundamentals are generally more driven by cash and by contracts and things like that, and like it's not as simple as ARR, playing the game of ARR. I know this because I played the game, like where
I think there's you just said like that's the thing that VCs incentivize. So like.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seed station, like, should you really not be playing that game? I mean, there's lots of games, right? Like, there's take the last week's ARR times it by 52. There's like, you do some pilot and like you say, hey, it's ARR, but it's actually like a 2-month pilot. There's this kind of low margin business that like is mostly selling compute that's like calling it ARR. What other games are there? I guess there's this like non-annual contracts calling it ARR. There's like services businesses where you're like, someone pays you to do some service thing and you call that ARR. But if the VCs are incentivizing, I mean, would you say to a founder like, hey, like take the pure path and like only call it ARR if it's really ARR? Like, how would you
Yeah,
advise?
my view on this has changed a lot. Like, obviously, before I was building a venture cap, VC backed business, I was playing the game myself, and like, I was really focused on this. Like, how do you define? You play, spend a lot of time with your accountants to like make sure, like, the revenue recognition is in a way. This is when you're a later stage company, and then when you're earlier stage, yeah, you can come up with creative, definitions for things, and just make sure that your board is okay with it, right? So whatever it is, and I think you can't blame founders for playing the game, but I think founders need to know they're playing a game, and they need to know that there's a difference between playing that VC game, if that's the track you're on, and having a fundamentally strong business, right? And know that this time is likely going to fade. Like, we don't know when it is, but every time that, you enter these kind of rushes, they tend to fade. They tend to fade, and you don't want you want to be a good company still on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and
I
you
would
wanna
also
make sure
say like you should never lie. I think
Yeah,
like it's
for sure.
fine to like I think you should be very clear that like this is the actual facts of it. So yeah, I think talking to your accountant and like doing annual like how you recognize revenue, I think that's different from like actually like calling something AR like and calling something annual recurring revenue when it's not annual and it's not recurring. I think that's just lying, and you shouldn't do that. Uh, but there's definitely like people will give you way more credit for if you say this is my annualized revenue.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
people will like give you credit for like they'll translate in their head ARR, but I
Yeah.
don't think you should ever lie. But I think this point is really good that you shouldn't lie to yourself. I think that's the biggest danger. Like I think it's fine to like know that you're fundraising and just you're trying to like make yourself seem as grand as possible. But I think my advice there would be like with your board internally, never talk about these metrics that are not like 100% like bulletproof. Like forget revenue, talk about like gross profitability, like forget like anything annualized, like talk about like cohorts, like you should internally talk like you're like just talking yourself down all the time. That's how I think about it. Like internally you want to be like extremely pessimistic, keep it real, and like if it's good, it's good. If it's not good, at least you're preparing for it. And I would say the same with the board. Like I think the board, you should be like fairly transparent. I think the risk is a little bit these companies that are raising every 6 months. Like when you're raising every 6 months, you have to like keep you have to keep going back to this like pitch mode. I think if you're like raising every 1.5 years, you can be like, oh yeah, there's like 1 month, 2 month period where I'm on pitch mode and I talk like in these kind of grand ways, and the rest of the time I'm like very real.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to think about things. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of first-time founders especially think like they have to hype up the company internally, and in fact, you want to have a culture where you're constantly talking about problems and what's going wrong, right? And so
Yeah, because like
you really have to.
what's the message you're telling your company when you're hyping it up? Like you're saying like you don't have to work hard, we've made it. Like it's not, yeah, and like you're not helping. They're not helping you solve the problems because you're hyping it up. So they're like, oh, everything's great. Like why? Yeah, that we don't need to worry about it. Like whereas like you want everyone to be fretting about the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think experienced entrepreneurs like Elon, for example, do that all the time. Like they're constantly talking about what's going wrong. You can have like a couple of, highlights of what when we're right, but then, 95% of all hands, 90% of all hands should be focused on improvement opportunities. And like, I think that's a good rule of thumb for every internal meeting. You don't want to just pat yourself on the back for too long, right? Puneet, our producer here, gave us a stat like, this company, anything, claimed to hit a $2 million run rate within the first 2 weeks of operation. Like, this is another thing I think the YC actually is encouraging is like just remarkable. Like, you have to hit like this ridiculous ARR growth. I mean, there's no way within 2 weeks you're getting a $2 million ARR,
2 million divided by 52 is only 38,000. So if they sign one deal for 38,000 last week, they're at 2 million.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very concerning. I don't like that at all. Like this culture. Like, first of all, like good companies take a long time to build, and I feel like we're like. I remember even OpenAI took many years before it started hitting this current curve, right? Like, so people need to remember that. Like, and if you're a new YC company or a new company, and you're like, you're trying to hit kind of participate in this rat race.
Yeah. But I do think it's again the VCs are to blame. Like they've seen a few companies in AI go from like 0 to 10 million in a year, and now that's just the thing they're looking for. Like that's the pattern recognition. So if you're not going from like to get to like 10 million by the end of the year, you need to be getting like 0 to 1 million like in the first month or something.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the pressure. Like that's the cycle. It's like VCs are looking for this because they saw it a few times. Companies are selling it to them, and then then the next company the VC looks at it if they're like, yeah, we're building this for the next 3 years, and then we'll make some, and then the VC is like, I don't have time for this. Like I have like so many other companies that are going from like 0 to 2 million.
Yeah, and the one thing people should realize, the founders should realize, the VCs won't care if like you grow really fast and then you crater. Like they'll just move on to the next company in a second, right? Like, but you will care a lot. Your life is going to be miserable if like your company craters, right? Like that can really, that's a real bummer for you. But so you want to make sure you're the only one responsible for making sure your growth is sustainable and actually like good growth, and it can, your company's going to last for a long time. If you build a sustainable company, your life as a founder is going to be really, really good, right? like that is like a really good and very satisfying journey for a founder. But like growing really fast and then like collapsing, is not a good life. So you want to make sure that you have sustainable growth, and that's really only the founder's job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people talk about product market fit a lot, but I think they miss like the retention part of product market fit. Like I think if you're you don't have product market fit if you're growing, if you're not retaining. Like I think that's the thing to obsess about. Like step number 1, you build the product. Step number 2, like you grow it a little bit, and then step number 3 is you focus on retention. And actually, you kind of want to like, once you have a little bit of growth, you actually want to like not focus on growth. You want to just be 100% sure like these customers are loving it, they're sticking with it, they're like growing their usage on it. Like, or you can, if you switch from being like growth focused to retention focused for a little bit, I think it's like very positive. And I think that's how you build that sustainable company. Like you don't want to be a company that like has figured out growth but hasn't figured out retention, because that's like, soon you'll get a bad reputation with customers. Like when you're not retaining customers, what it means is that people are literally trying your service out and finding it inadequate and quitting. Like that's like the opposite of word of mouth. Like the next person asks them like, who should I use? They're going to be like, definitely don't use these guys. And that can become like a negative cycle very quickly.
That's a really important point, Immad. I think that a lot of founders miss this, and especially in today's world, it's going to be, retention is really still a important North Star to keep it. So when we define our North Star metrics, retention should be like number 1, right? So anything that relates to retention, and you want to really focus on that internally for sure. And you need to have growth too. If you're a VC-backed company, so you need that too in the top 3. But like retention is really the number 1. If you don't have retention, you have nothing.
Maybe a good point, Raj, should talk about Tribe a little bit. So you've been working on this kind of chat app for 6 months, a year now.
So over a year and 6 months actually, yeah.
I guess like this is I'm interested in like, this is your first social app. So like, what's it like building a social app versus like other things you built? And then B, how's it going? Well, like, how are you thinking about retention and all these other factors?
Yeah, it's definitely very different than built hardware companies, and even the early days of Lyft were very like transportation is a very physical world, right? And this is like a virtual world thing. So it's completely different from everything I've done. Very different from Lima as well. So it's first of all, I would say it's fun in that like you're directly working very closely with users who are using the app, and you get to see their usage, and so that part is very good in that you actually you're interacting with your users all the time. I think building an app on the App Store has never been easier. Building a great app has never been easier. There's so many cool things you could do with AI now that you could never do before, and the interplay between AI and human, as a product mechanic is very exciting. Like for example, on our app we have like AI generated trivia questions based on the chat that people are talking about. So like Yeah. So, and that is an amazing feature. It took us a long time to refine
But
it.
when you say it's easier to develop than ever before, are you saying it's easier to incorporate AI features, or are you saying like literally like the engineering ease is easier because of like Cursor and like these other
Yeah,
AI
the
tools?
engineering is definitely easier. There's no doubt about that. Like, I think that's affecting everyone, right? But the actual like the use of AI, in a traditionally human use case, is actually the most interesting part, of like of AI, like AI development. Like you couldn't, WhatsApp and all these other apps, they don't use AI really well. Like they're actually using it for very basic use cases. But like when you truly have AI plus human like fully like melded, where like AI is like riffing off human behavior, and then the humans riff off the AI behavior, and you have this like very tight integration between AI and human. You can come up with true magic. Is kind of what we're finding. Like there's some really amazing things happening. And
What is the most popular thing? Is it this trivia thing, or is there
trivia is
some
definitely
other
one of the
things?
most popular things, and that's like we're very excited about that. There's we have AI now kind of like I would say seamlessly integrated into various different parts of the app, but it's still a human app. Like people are talking to other humans. That's what they prioritize, right? And that's what we care about. We also have threading, which sounds very boring, but like I think it's actually working really well. Like people enjoy the fact that you can have a group chat with the same people, but you can have different topics that you're talking about. So I think that part is also worked really well. It's probably two of our the most successful features. We've tried integrating with other apps too. So like we have integration with Twitter and integration with even short video platforms, and that's interesting. We're still like trying to figure out what's the right way of making that work. But there's a lot more to come on the AI stuff. So AI also like has full context of the chat. One thing I really like is like you and I could be having a debate over say like AI bubble, and we could seamlessly be tagging the AI, and it could be fact checking us in real time, like sort of what Puneet is doing here, our producer, in the podcast. But you can do that in a group chat as well. And Meta and other companies haven't done that well because their AI doesn't have full context of the chat. So it's actually much better when you do have full context of the chat. So yeah, when it comes to retention, our retention rates are really high because it's a group chat. So like it's not a transactional use case. So actually, our issue is more on the growth side because we're not Reddit and we're not like Twitter, so we're not public facing. It's private chats. So those things are easily discoverable, and so it's naturally highly retentive, but it's naturally harder to grow. So we actually have a few things that we're working on there. And that's probably, the last year and a half, we've been mostly focused on product development and just to get to a basic product. And I think we have gotten there now. I think the product itself has like very high retention rates and it's quite usable. And now we're going to be focusing more on growth efforts. So you'll probably see more marketing efforts, coming out.
You should
there.
get we hired a growth, well, he's now a VP of growth and experience, but we hired him out of Meta actually. But I do think there is like a pretty specialized set of knowledge around like growth, both I guess growth engineering and growth VM. So potentially you should hire someone there who's like done growth in social apps. I think there's just like a lot of like experimentation and like product features you can build around kind of growing this thing. I mean, I guess WhatsApp maybe has explored a lot of them, but there's probably, for you guys, you don't need to do things that scale to millions, right? Like you need to initially do things that scale to like tens of thousands. So there's a lot of things that you could probably do that would drive growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in the market where we have opened a growth lead role. So like it's funny
Nice.
you mentioned that. Yeah. So we're actively talking to folks, and I'm doing it myself now. So like I'm like basically learning as well. And the whole game changes like every couple of years, right? As the platforms change and stuff. So
Yeah,
so
every channel gets saturated. So and every idea has its own like growth things that work for it. Yeah, that is the tricky part of like growing a social app for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's a major challenge. It's fun. I would say intellectually it's fun in that like.
So you're spending most of your time on this over Lima, or like it's a 50-50? Has Lima kind of taken a backseat because of these kind of immigration difficulties, or has it become even more important?
I mean, Lima is still very important because it's like, yeah, we're helping immigrants at a time where immigrants are, being targeted, right? Unfortunately, even skilled immigrants are, kind of struggling a lot, with the uncertainty, and there's not been, I think Trump came to power and he kind of promised that he'd be stapling green cards on, people who graduated from American schools. In fact, it's the opposite. Like, there's actually some rules that have been proposed that are making it harder for like people graduating from schools to stay in the U.S. Look, the immigration landscape is very difficult for people, but Lima has still been very successful in getting people across the finish line. And we're also running some projects now where like some strategic projects where there's like, we're targeting people all around the world who are highly talented and trying to recruit them to the United States. So that is something that we think, basically it's like a Department of Talent for the United States. There's no like official government body.
Don't you need a company first? Or is the idea like you're like, hey, we'll find the talent first, we can place them?
Yes, basically, so we find the talent first, cool. And then we place them. Yeah, and we actually have a list of people who kind of like, we're targeting and trying to bring them to the U.S. We have good relationships with employers.
So is it mostly AI talent or is it all sorts?
It's across the board. I mean, there's other areas of key strategic importance, like actually quantum computing is one, semiconductors, and there's a number of key strategic areas where there's shortages in the U.S.
Yeah, maybe rare earth metals.
Yeah, rare earth engineering. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the goal is that this is an organization that's going to help the talent and also help the people here who have shortages, and help make America stronger by bringing in the world's best talent. And I think it can be
Seems like a no-brainer.
There should be someone doing this, and there is no one actually focused on this. So like it's I think it's
I like that mission, the U.S. Talent Nexus, and actually you can make more money doing that, right? Because if you have someone talented and you're placing them somewhere, like companies will pay a lot of money for recruiting help, more money than they'll pay for like kind of a lawyer helping with the immigration process.
Yeah, and it's life changing for the talent as well. So you can imagine, you're stuck in some backwater. You're very talented. How do you make it to the U.S., right? And it's often seen as very high friction.
Opportunity. Yeah. And it's not even a backwater, right? Like people, I mean, you just get paid so much more in America. Like, I moved from the UK, and like, even now, like an engineer would be, happy to make 50,000 out of school, whereas like in Silicon Valley, like starting salaries for engineers are like insane. I don't want to say where we start, but it's way above 100K.
Yeah. And it's not just like the money; it's also like the impact you can have, the career trajectory. Like someone like you,
I think it's actually
founder,
fun
right?
as well, right? Like companies are doing ambitious things here. Like you're at the cutting edge for sure. So yeah, that's interesting.
And tell me about Mercury. How's what kind of new products have you announced? What's in the hopper, and how's the industry going?
Last year we did a ton of new product releases. So this year has been like mostly improving those products rather than like trying to do big new flashy things. We have a few big new flashy things in the pan, so we'll end up doing like them next year. Let's see, what have we rolled out? We rolled out like maybe it's, I don't know if it's 100% rolled out, but yeah, we had like a AI chatbot to just help people answer questions, and that's like thinking about these interactions between like when is it good for an AI to answer a question versus like when is it good to hand off to a human, and so it's like completely backed by a human is the idea. So you can if you have a basic question like how long does it take for a wire to get sent, which like I think 30% of our questions are basic, and we can just answer that rather than waiting for a human. But if as soon as the question gets tricky, there's like an easy way to kind of hand off to a human. So anyway, roll that out. There's a ton of kind of smaller improvements we're doing across the stuff. We've done a lot I don't think most people realize we have like a pretty good credit card now, and that's actually our fastest growing space, corporate credit card. It's called IO. That's been growing like.
Can any bank account get this credit card? Because I was looking at trying to get one for all my different accounts, and so
we have like different kind of eligibility rules, but we're making it more and more eligible. I mean, you can definitely get one, Raj, but for most people that sign up today, they will get one. But it's not 100% of people eligible for it. But we've been extending the eligibility. So I think the rough rule is like if you have more than 50K, then you get the kind of 30-day payback credit card. So you can spend money and you don't have to pay it back until the end of the month. If you have less than 50K, you can still get the credit card, but you have to pay it back daily. But you get most of the benefits. So all the software around kind of issuing lots of virtual cards and cards to employees and attaching receipts and all of that are universal. And then you also get the 1.5% cash back across all the cards. But yeah, we've invested a ton in this in the credit card. It's quite fun to yeah, like we have like obviously the banking is like the biggest and scale product, but we've had this credit card for 3 years now. 3 years, yeah, something like 3 years. So it's kind of fun to like actually just have this second product that we've kind of invested in, and like over the last year, it's become like it's the dominant corporate credit card on Mercury. So more people use the Mercury IO card on Mercury than kind of the other corporate cards, Ramp, Brex, Amex, all of those. So yeah, that was always the vision for me when I built Mercury, to not just build banking, but have like kind of this suite of software and financial tools that are built on top of banking and like kind of seamless and integrated. Which is the fun part of Mercury. It's not just like one product and then you're done. It's a suite of products that help entrepreneurs. And it's fun to like have one at scale.
You're building so many cool things. What's the end state? Like 5 years from now, where do you think Mercury will be? Like, what's the vision there?
Yeah, honestly, there isn't an end state. I think that would be boring.
5 year state. Yeah.
There's a 5 year state. I mean, I think it's like you can kind of see what we're doing, right? Like on the business side, we continue to invest in the banking side, but like if you think about all the ways money leaves your bank account and all the ways money comes into your bank account, like all of those things have like software around it, right? And how do we make it so instead of leaving Mercury to do one of those things, you stay within Mercury, and doing it within Mercury has the benefit that like, you're already a user, that's where your money is, so we can move money quicker. And once you have this integrated suite of things, you can manage it easier, you can integrate it to accounting easier, things like that. So that's on the business side, and that's why we launched bill pay and invoicing, etc. And then on the consumer side, that's like relatively new for us. And there's some similar thoughts around it, but I think it's like slightly different. So, I've been thinking a lot about like, how do we make it so your consumer bank account is the main place you put all your money, right? So right now people have money in their bank, they have money in, some investment product, they have money in some other high yield savings thing. And it's just annoying to manage all of this. And like, if you're like buying a house or buying something big, you have to like liquidate some stock, and it's all of that is kind of frustrating. And you have to, we just want to make it seamless. So we launched this product, Mercury Invest, where you can seamlessly put money in S&P and US government ETFs, and you can set up rules. Like if you're as soon as your paycheck comes in, maybe 50% of it goes to like your kind of distribution of S&P mutual fund or US government T-bill fund, and it's just like super easy to manage. Like you don't have to think about it. It's just like easy to move money in and out of it. So that's a one big bet on the personal side, but we're also kind of bundling all the software that you get on the business side. So it's actually like, often I'll attach a receipt to my personal payment just because I'm like, sometimes you forget, like, why did you make this payment? And you want to like just keep tracking. And, if you come back a year later, like why the hell you paid 50K for something or whatever it was.
Yeah, I personally really enjoy like some of these products. I've tried the Treasury now. The Treasury is pretty cool. That I don't have to move the money out for that. That's definitely a big benefit. So yeah, I can definitely see the improvement. So excited for what's coming next.
Yeah, it's also an exciting time in fintech. I mean, we heard that fintech was the hottest thing in 2021. I think it was like 20 or 25% of all funding went to fintech. So fintech was like the AI of the 2021 bubble. Not quite as concentrated, but almost that much. And then, this year we've had a ton of fintech IPOs. I think at least half the IPOs have been fintech. I mean, there's Chime, there's Klarna, there's Circle, there's a few other ones. So I think, we've got to the stage where like the bets, I mean, obviously many of them did not work out, but I think the ones that worked out are reaching maturity, including Mercury. So it's fun to see kind of, AI is still the main thing, but fintech is definitely like the secondary thing, I would say right now. People still, in terms of like things getting funding, it's either like AI, defense tech, or like fintech, or like probably like the three fields right now that like get some action. So it's good to see that, and it's kind of an exciting time to be in fintech.
Are you going to do anything with stablecoins?
I mean, we look into it. Honestly, it's just not that demanded by our customers, and that's my main kind of source of getting user feedback. I don't like following whatever's like the hotness. I'd rather like see what our customers are demanding. But we're doing a bunch of investigation, so we'll probably do something next year. We actually did a partnership with Tempo, which is like the new thing out of Stripe and Paradigm. They're doing like L1 for stablecoin. So we're investigating that, and yeah, we're doing a bunch of things. So I think there'll be something, but I don't think it'll be revolutionary. I think it'll be, I think receiving money to a stablecoin wallet would be kind of cool to have in Mercury, but there's also like lots of ways to do it already. So it's not like if our customers really want that, they can get it somewhere else. So it's not game changing, but yeah, it fits into the idea of having an integrated suite of tools within Mercury.
Sounds good, man. Well, this was fun. Let's do it again soon. There's one-on-one chats.
Yeah, and then we're back to our normal scheduling next week. Thanks everyone for listening. Please leave us a review on whatever channel you're listening on. Makes a big difference to the algorithm and to the success of the show. And see you all next week.